What do we need to stop teaching the children? Kids learn by watching us. Whatever we want kids to do or not do starts with grown-ups addressing our own hang-ups. Full stop. That play ends when you reach adulthood. Play is important even when we're grown. We don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. George Bernard Shaw. As a kid, I had about 5 board games in the cupboard, and they were boring, or we'd played them 100 times. I'm 40 now, and our board game storage unit just ticked over 100 games. Fucking love that shit. You can get what you want if you're nice. It teaches children how to be manipulative, dishonest. Instead, teach them to handle no. Too many people grow up and get offended at being told no. Teachers or parents want their children to learn how to ask for things in a polite way, but not how to handle rejection. My brother teaches children, and he will actively tell kids no and encourage them to find alternative solutions that don't infringe on someone's decision. I did. Happy New Year's. Wrote this while smashed it to him in the morning. Had to deal with this with my daughter. We were at the park and she asked another girl if she could play with one of her dolls. She said no, and next thing I know, there's a temper tantrum being thrown because she wouldn't share. Got shit from my ex and my parents because I explained to her that not everyone has to share, and she could say no if she wanted because it was her toy. I've told this story on Reddit before, but I'm a teacher, and a few years ago I was attacked by a student. This is elementary, so it wasn't as scary as you're imagining, but he was a large boy throwing his full weight at me. Another student had to pull him off. It was completely unprovoked and out of nowhere. The attacking student wasn't one of my students, and we'd been having a completely neutral conversation prior to the attack. I wasn't injured, just minor face scratches. Or traumatized, but the kid's behavior was absolutely unacceptable. The school's response was to ask the student who attacked me what negative feelings he'd been having that led him to attacking me. He said he got too hot and have him write out better ways to cope with those feelings. So like, instead of attacking a teacher, go stand in the shade. Then he had to make me a card that said he was sorry. He essentially wrote that he was sorry it got so hot that day. The school accepted that and closed the case. They explicitly taught him to come up with an excuse for your bad behavior, and then you won't face consequences. He, of course, went on to attack another student and was finally expelled. Schools are absolutely explicitly teaching kids to be manipulative. The focus on emotional intelligence is amazing and wonderful, but some schools have absurdly managed to turn every emotional intelligence curriculum into a series of lessons on how to always center your own feelings and never take responsibility for anything. That failure is something to be ashamed of and to avoid at all costs. We all fail sometimes, and we need to be able to accept that. It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life. Captain Jean-Luc Picard. You cannot learn from your mistakes if you do not make them. The goal should not be to avoid failure, but to avoid harm in failure. Let your kids go skiing, but on a hill where the ski patrol can get them medical attention if they break a leg. Let them go outside without a coat. When they get cold, and they will, ask if they have learned about cold, then give them the jacket you brought. You can deliberately let them fail so they learn how to handle failure gracefully. That you need talent to be good at something. Right on. So much can be learned, practiced, and become a skill. I don't believe in forced apologies. They're not legitimate apologies, and the other child knows this. I also don't feel adults should force children to accept an apology. Forced apologies and acceptances don't have any benefits. I am a third-grade teacher. My students know I won't force an apology. Instead, I speak to the students about their choices and how it made others feel. I've found that once students realize what they did, they do apologize on their own, and the other student does accept it because they know the apology is sincere. Oftentimes, students will even try to resolve the issue on their own. It's common for students to ask me if they could speak alone in the hallway. They then return proudly stating that they resolved their issue. Obviously, if something is not resolving itself, I'll continue to help students through it. I will also step in for more significant disagreements. However, I've found that students are able to resolve issues an overwhelming majority of times. However, they are never truly resolved with forced apologies and acceptances of forced apologies because the underlying issue is still there. I agree completely. I think it also teaches kids that actual reflection is unimportant so long as you say the magic words. How many times have you heard a child indignantly say, "Well, I said I was sorry"? after they give a half-assed apology with no indication that they will act differently in the future. Forcing apologies just breeds resentment between kids. This is a big one. My Mile would tell her kids it didn't matter if they felt sorry so long as they sounded sincere. This led to some eye-opening fights as an adult with my spouse. He genuinely didn't understand why insincere apologies upset me even more than what initially upset me. It should be perfectly acceptable to acknowledge why someone is upset and not want to hurt them while not feel regret for your actions. A forced apology is basically disregarding someone else's stance, but implying that because a superficial exchange of words sweeps it under the rug, to push down their feelings and never cry. You don't heal unless you work through your emotions. Support them, don't scold. I tell my kids to not let their emotions control their actions. It is okay to be emotional, to cry, be angry, etc. What is not acceptable to lash out or fall apart because of those emotions? That you need to be friends with everyone. I've had to tell my kids this, like when kids in their class don't ever want to play with them. Not everyone wants to be your friend, and that's okay. I used to tell my son he had to be kind and respectful to others, but didn't have to be friends with anyone he didn't want to be. I stand firm on telling my students this truth. I've had other teachers question me, and I like to remind them how we're not all friends. Of course, I do talk about being respectful, but no, we're not all friends. So many sad Reddit posts are purely the result of people not realizing that they aren't entitled to be friends with someone who doesn't want to be friends with them. To just ignore bullies. As a former teacher, it does nothing to address the issue. The bullying persists 100 of the time. I've ignored kicks to the head in the locker room and the classroom. Can confirm ignoring it just shows that you'll fucking take it. As a former bullied, what the hell goes on in the heads of the people who say this? Ignoring bullies just makes them turn violent, fast aim. The ignoring only seems to work if the kid being bullied tends to have emotional reactions that are considered odd. Like if a teenager starts wailing and stomping their feet over someone saying "your mom." The bullies are doing it to get that cringy reaction, and if the victim was able to react normally, then the bullying would stop. A lot of times, the victims aren't capable of ignoring it, so the advice is kind of useless anyway. I had some girls a little younger than me try to upset me at a pool by telling me I had back hair. The wind went out of their sails when I was like, yeah, I'm a mammal. Y'all have back hair too, and no emotional response. If I had shown I was upset or told an adult, they would have had more fuel to make fun of me. But it stopped because I was boring. You are perfect. No, you are not. It's important to know your weaknesses and focus on your strengths. Replacement words for vagina, penis, etc. It's not inappropriate for a child to know basic anatomy, and this is only advantageous to predatory people. Edit. Yes, I know the vagina is not the vulva. That's why I said it's a... I was just giving examples. And thank you, kind stranger, for the award. My daughter, knowing correct terminology, helped to get her abuser jailed when she was 3 years old. Teach your kids the anatomical words so they have the vocabulary to tell you if something's going on, even at a young age. Very much. We need to stop treating genitalia and the words for them as expletives. If for no other reason, then it makes for very unnecessary awkwardness. I work with and am related to adults who continue to use infantilized language. No, they don't do it because they think it's cute, and I would say it is not difficult to tell when someone has a severe emotional hang-up on words. Please isn't a magic word. It often won't get you what you want. I'm sorry doesn't erase a wrong, and is only one small part of an apology, which the wronged party is not obligated to accept. Counterpoint. The willingness to politely ask but take no for an answer just as politely can be ridiculously useful. In particular, girls need to be taught this. Part of advocating for yourself. I'm blown away by the amount of adults who think saying, "I'm sorry" makes everything better. You show you're sorry by your actions, not just your words. They are being mean to you because they like you. That while they are special, they are not any more special than anyone else. Bluey Library, you're not special to everyone. Clip the kids show Bluey. One of my favorite clips, 125 mark. This show is gold. Everyone is special, dash. Dash retorts back to her, which is another way of saying that no one is. I regularly tell my students, all of you are unique, but none of you are special. If he's mean to you, he likes you. I tell my daughter it doesn't matter if he likes you. If he's not kind, he's not worth your time. In my senior year of high school, there was a boy bullying me, and when I reported it, the principal tried to tell me he probably had a crush on me. Like we were months away from graduating high school, we were nearly adults, and his awful bullying was shrugged away with a crush. 100. It's super weird we teach girls to be okay with poor treatment if it's romantically motivated. Stranger danger, it has some decent basic principles about safety, but the unfortunate truth is, we need to teach children how to detect if adults in their life are treating them inappropriately just as much as strangers. Breakfast cereal is healthy. Don't you dare say Captain Crunch isn't healthy. It's a well-balanced, nutritional breakfast, especially when eaten out of an empty Cool Whip or butter container. To accept collective punishment. Whomever did something to get in trouble for is who gets the punishment. So many teachers do this to kids, and it just breeds resentment for both the teacher and the kid who keeps getting the whole class in trouble. I don't want my kids to be prepared to accept this as adults and just deal with it from the Goft society, their employer, etc. Similarly, schools need to stop giving victims the same punishment that their bullies get. Good answer. I remember a time when I was on the middle school soccer team. I was sick this particular day, and I had planned on telling my coach that I was going to sit out because it was like 90 degrees and I was on the verge of vomiting. But before I had the chance, one of my teammates' schoolmates decided it would be funny to open all of the lockers in the locker room, then run around and slam them shut, which, by the way, is not a terrible transgression. It's a victimless crime, to be honest. He just made a lot of noise. So as punishment, the entire team had to run 2 miles, including me, because the coach wouldn't listen to my plea for mercy. I don't know why I didn't just walk away. I guess as a kid you're taught to be reliant on adults, even though I knew it was wrong. I'll never forget that horrible day. Please teach your children how to not spray spit and mucus everywhere. Cover sneezes and coughs with inner elbows. Keep fingers out of noses and mouths. Don't buzz lips. You spray spit. Being a kindergarten teacher is living in one big Petri dish. I'll pony this one up with proper hand washing, not just splashing under the faucet for a few moments, but wetting hands, turning off the water, soaping hands well, then turn water on and rinse. I before E, except after C. This rule has so many exceptions that it should not be considered a rule. Except when your foreign neighbor Keith receives 8 counterfeit beige sleighs from Feisty caffeinated weightlifters. Weird! Anything without larger context. Pretty much everything listed so far shouldn't be taught without context, healthy skepticism, and a lot of critical thinking. They need to know all the toxic things so they can recognize them, hopefully reject them, and be part of a better culture. And teachers, I see you. My generation X expects way too much parenting from teachers. Imho. That we have to invite the entire class to your birthday party. As a teacher, I'm fine with that, as long as you don't pass out the invites in front of students who aren't invited. I would never do that with a group of adults. How can you expect kids to react well? Boys don't hit girls. Girls don't hit boys. Should be taught equally. Obviously, there are exceptions like self-defense. Also, boys know is no. Girls know is no. Girls know is no. It to say and clarify, we should stop teaching this as only a one-sided thing. It should be taught to both equally. Right. My dad was so annoying with this. If I hit my sister, it was, don't hit girls. If she hit me, it was, well, clearly did something to deserve it. What a great way to teach one kid resentment and another that they're above consequence. Abstinence, only sex education. Please teach these kids about contraception and how it works. It's been proven that comprehensive sex education is way better at preventing teen pregnancies than abstinence only. Also, sex education gives children the language to speak out if they're being sexually abused. That you have to give relatives a hug or kiss if they ask for one. Kids need to be taught that they can fail. Schools are moving towards it being impossible to fail a student. Kid didn't hand in their assignment. How do you know their work is worth 0 when they handed in nothing? Because they handed in 0% of the fucking work. That's why, my God, stop coddling them. I wish I was kidding, but that's how it is here, and I cannot fucking believe that's how the school system works. I'm so goddamn worried for my future kids. I don't feel there is anything we need to stop teaching kids that is common. I feel we need to teach children boundaries. I don't know if it's COVID related or what, but I work with children, and these last few years I've noticed kids are having huge boundary issue. It seems that while parents were teaching them about electronics, hygiene, or even just how to prepare food for themselves, the parents forgot to teach the part where the child has to ask for these things, not just go and take them. And that generalizes to school or others, people's houses, that doctors are scary. Many parents threaten their kids with a doctor when kids don't listen to them. As a teacher, I'm always amused by the things people think we teach kids. Stop teaching if you know what I spent significant time teaching this year? That soiled toilet paper goes in the toilet. That you can control how loudly you burp. That you have to charge a laptop computer for more than a minute to fill the battery. Then you get the, why don't schools teach kids how to do taxes? Yeah, kids love taxes. We couldn't get middle school kids to stop playing Fortnite long enough to focus on the human body unit for a week. I'm just amused by all the things people think happen in schools. And of course there is the notion that parents can teach kids too. That's what we're doing with our son. If there's something important he needs to know, we're teaching it to him. I learned the basics of taxes in high school. Newsflash, 16-year-olds don't care about taxes. That it's acceptable to use devices in public loudly without headphones. Family is everything. No, sometimes they're trash and need to be let go of. Food pyramid as it is. It's wrong. Shut up and eat your damn grains. Only 13 more servings needed before dinner. That you are only successful and happy with a college degree, married and have children. Success is a personal standard, not a societal requirement. That active shooter drills are normal. They are not.